The first one of these I did, Tim and Dave did them Tim and somebody else did them, and then Tim and Dave, and then a couple times that I did them with Dave, I just stood here. He talked for 2 hours.
Oh, that's Dave.
Yeah, he didn't want to share. I'm on the other hand. Hey, young man.
Real quick, how long will the class last?
A couple hours.
Okay.
From the rally, but it doesn't do much. But we don't care. It's easier when it's not so crowded.
I thought I was going to be late this morning. I forgot they're doing construction on Beltline.
Oh.
I hit Beltline and then I couldn't.
Hung the bastard, right?
Meth addict.
I'm sorry?
Some meth addict shot somebody.
Yes,
You
sir.
yourself today?
He's help me.
You want a chair? A couple chairs?
Nah, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Good morning, Jake. I thought your wife was a little older than that.
Very young. Is he filling in for Dave today?
Yes.
Is he a poop expert?
I'm sorry?
Is he a poop expert?
Yes. I've already told him it's right here, ready to go.
I was hoping Hannah could meet Dave, and since he lived in his for so while,
Yeah.
he might have some pointers.
We'll come back to other ones.
Yeah, you can, a couple of years from now, you can get up and give this seminar.
We'll see. Yep, that's the plan.
Okay, and are we live? Are we up? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, maybe. Everybody must be out partying. This is kind of a puny crowd. But I'm glad you're here. Nothing personal.
Yeah, but I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to the umpteenth, jillionth Guaranty Saturday seminar. My name is Dan. I am the weekend service supervisor for the building. I'm only a part-timer, soon to be a no-timer. A couple old friends of mine here from Vegas, happy to see them. And this is actually his granddaughter, it's not his wife. So Dave Taylor, the service manager at the other building, is down at Reno at Hot August Nights. I went last year, so he had to go do it this year. We have Phil, and Phil Collins was a tech for a while, and then I knew him when he was a service writer with me 100 years ago. He and I both wrote service at Main Street for a while, and then he went back into the shop, and he is now their lead tech. He is everything high-end. He has been an exceptional tech, and that's where his world is, and so we're kind of honored to have him. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but we're going to ask him a lot of questions, because if you have questions, this guy knows. So again, welcome. We are here to give you information. We are not here to sell you anything. We're going to recommend things, but we're not going to push our brand at you any more than we can help it. So with that, I'm going to start with batteries. If you've been here many times, you've already heard this, but if not, can you hear me okay? Okay. Batteries are the core of any RV. Whether you have a tent trailer, a travel trailer, camper, Class C, Class B, Class A, even a diesel pusher, high-end, all electric, they are all about the batteries. All of the electronics in the appliances, most of the lights are 12 volts. All of the controls for your appliances are 12 volts. So if your batteries go down, nothing is going to work correctly. I'm going to talk about the different types of batteries, and if you have questions, please shout, yell, raise your hand, throw something at me. We live for the questions. Because I've already know this stuff, so if I skip over something, I don't realize it. Yes, ma'am.
Question about the battery. We bought an RV from you guys.
What kind of batteries are these compared to what they got? What you girls got was this battery right here. This is an Interstate 12 volt deep cycle battery, and usually get one or two. depending on the size. If you have slides, you get 2. And we do that because 2 batteries maintain a higher voltage in the room, and I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But basically, what these ladies have in their trailer are 12 volt, deep cycle. There's several ways to call these out. These are flooded cell, wet cell, lead acid batteries. These are the basic batteries. This is a good battery, very, very good quality battery. There's a couple batteries out there that are as good or slightly better, but Interstate recognized right off the bat that customer service is everything. If you have, there's a date stamp on these, and if you don't have a receipt and you're within a 90-day margin of the first year, their free exchange, Interstate is very good about that. If you bought a battery and it's an Interstate and the date stamp is about a year old, you bring it in here. We don't argue with you. We don't care where you bought it because we know Interstate will exchange it. They take our dead one, they give us a brand new one, and we can go sell that. And they're very good about it. The downside of a flooded cell, lead acid, wet battery, whatever you want to call it. The downside is they're a fairly high maintenance item and they have to be ventilated. They have to be outside the coach because they outgas. When you discharge, the chemical reaction is you have sulfuric acid and lead plate. The 2 together react to lead sulfate, and which is a crystal, and water, and then electrons. When it goes through the recharge and we are replating the lead out of solution back onto the plate, it discharges hydrogen and it gases. So it's breaking down the water and outgassing that water, so you have to replenish the water. The best thing to do is to go to Bi-Mart or Walmart, wherever little mart you like, buy gallons of distilled water. Forever was $1 a gallon, now it's $1.25 a gallon. You don't want any contaminants in it because the sediment, it fills up on the bottom and it'll short the battery out. So distilled water, glop, 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 glop. You look down in there, and about 3/4 inch down, you'll see a little square in the plastic casting. And you bring the water up to that level. You always want to make sure that the water is above the lead plate. As soon as the lead is exposed to air, it oxidizes, and that lead oxide will not replate, deplate, interact. That part, it could be a brand new battery, and if you pour the water out of it, the acid out of it, it hits the air, turns a lighter gray, that battery will never do anything again. So you want to make sure that you never expose the plates to air. You maintain them. The 12 volts you need to do about every 3 to 6 months. They're not as bad as the 6 volt. In the flooded cell 6 volt, which looks just about like this, those are an extremely high maintenance battery. And during times of use or plugged in, and you need to check the water level every 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Because they outgas extremely, but they're a better battery. The 6 volt batteries are a slightly different style. They are a true deep cycle. They are the best battery on the market for our industry for the coach batteries. They deep cycle much more. Their duty cycle is 2 to 3 times that of a 12 volt battery. So they will discharge, recharge, 2 to 3 more times than a 12 volt. They also have better storage capacity. The flooded cell group 24 that these ladies have on their trailer is about 90 amp hours, which means that over 20-hour period, they will discharge about 4.5 amps per hour. It's a 20-hour rate. That's how they rate these batteries. This battery is rated about 85 to 90 amp hours, which is pretty good for a group 24 12 volt battery. The same thing in a 6 volt. It is this size, it's an inch taller, same footprint. The 6 volt obviously is only 6 volts, so you need 2 of them, but individually they are 210 amp hours. So there is quite a bit of difference. If you had 2 of these, let's say that we have 170 amp hours for 2 brand new batteries. In the 6 volt, you're going to have 2 batteries at 220 amp hours. So you're going to have more cycle capacity, more potential. They'll duty cycle longer. They're just a better built battery. They're heavier duty. The 6 volt is the way to go. People that buy trailers, campers, and that usually start out with 12 volt. And if they see that they're dry camping for long periods of time, they will go to the 6 volt. Now, the starting battery is usually a flooded cell battery also. The difference between a starting battery and a deep cycling battery is the starting battery has a lot of plates. They're thin, they're close together, they have a high surface area, so there's a lot more ability for that sulfuric acid to react with the lead plate, and they can discharge rapidly. But the plates are thin and small, and if they are allowed to discharge too far, they will deplate themselves and they won't replate. So a starting battery that is used like a deep cycle, after 2 or 3 times, it will fall down, fail, it'll never come back. A deep cycle battery has bigger plates, and you can discharge them further, and they have a metal frame instead of a cardboard frame, so if they are totally depleted, the metal frame will allow them still to electroplate back onto the plate, and they can recharge themselves. So they're much more resilient to a heavy discharge. Yes?
So if you start with 2 of the regular interstate in your RV, but you want to move to a 6 volt, do you need 4, or because the ampage is higher, you would only need 1 or 2?
So the question is, if they started with 2 12 volts, do they need to go to 4 6 volts? No. If you have 2 12 volts, 2 6 volts will fit in they'll do the same thing. They're connected differently, so they look like they're one big 12 volt, but 2 batteries is for normal applications. If you're living in it, that's more than enough. When you're living in it, you're plugged in, I'm assuming, and the converter can maintain the power demand. The battery is just acting as a capacitor now, just to filter the 12 volts that's being outputted by the converter. When you're dry camping, that's when you really start using the batteries. Once you get more sophisticated and you decide you want a bigger coach and you decide you want solar and an inverter, or if you do a lot of extreme dry camping, people go to absorbed glass mat batteries, AGMs, and they are a sealed battery. They will work just as fine on their side or upside down. If they put them in racks sometimes, they are sealed, they don't leak. They're a gel. So everything is put into a fiberglass mat and squished together. There's nowhere for the electrolyte to go. They do get warmer, but if a regular 12 volt battery, like these ladies' trailer, deep cycles 175 to 200 times. The same thing in a 6 volt, 350 cycles. The same thing in an AGM, 700 to 1,000 cycles. So they cycle 2 to 3 times as often. Yes, sir.
We're camping somewhere for a week or 2 and you have electricity. Should you have your battery turned on or off, or does it make a difference?
You're dry camping for a week.
So if you're somewhere where you have electricity.
We have electricity. Good question. You want to try that?
Sure. So when you're plugged in, your converter will provide the energy that you need to run your lights and your appliances and things, but you still need that battery turned on because it's what the converter regulates against. So if you turn that battery off and your converter can't see a battery, it might put out 17, 18, 20 volts, and you don't want that. So you should always keep that battery turned on unless you're in storage.
I just thought it was a thing of if you wanted your battery to charge, then you want it turned on, but
It'll stay charged and it'll be ready to go, but it won't really be working. It won't be cycling. It's not shortening its life at all.
another question, plug in your short cord, do you want your battery turned on or off?
While you're plugging in,
Plug in or pull out?
it doesn't really matter. Yeah, there's no need to go turn it off. After the converter sees power, it turns on, starts providing power and charging your battery. So if your battery was on or off, it really doesn't matter, but you need to make sure to get that battery on.
Yes, ma'am.
About the battery, when you're storing your RV outside, you cover it and everything, but do you have to take the batteries in for winter? Can they freeze is my question, I guess. You know, I'm from Chicago, it's cold there.
She's been paying attention.
Yeah. So the question is, in the wintertime, they store their camper outside, it's covered, but should they bring the batteries in? The answer to that is, and this is one of my favorite topics, is it depends on your preference. And the reason I say that is, if you look at a fully charged 12-volt battery, the sulfuric acid in there, dilute sulfuric acid, will freeze at about 60 degrees below zero. If your battery is discharged due to neglect, or you left some lights on, or you don't maintain it, it's going to go to lead sulfate, which crystallizes and settles out, and water freezes at 32. So if you're comfortable with the fact that your batteries are in perfect shape, then you can leave it out there and it will not freeze. And I would recommend, and he would tell you, that either install a battery disconnect so that on the ground wire, so that you know that it cannot discharge, or if you have the ability, lug them into the garage just to make sure. But a battery that is fully charged will not freeze unless you're up in Siberia or somewhere. Yes.
Or if you lug it into the garage, don't put it on the cement floor.
That's an old wives' tale. He says if you lug it into the garage, don't put it on the garage floor. When we had rubber casings, that was absolutely true, because the casings were recycled material mostly, and they had foreign material in them, and that foreign material tended to create small current trails. And the moisture and the content of the concrete would just make a dead short right down there. The new plastic casings, these, if it was recycled material, they'd be black, kind of a dark gray black, but this battery manufacturer just uses virgin plastic. They're not recycling the water bottles and that, but the white stuff is so impervious, it's such good quality. I mean, it's amazing, you know, what this plastic can do, and it will not cause a discharge. Are you agreeing with that?
As far as I know, they haven't made batteries that have a case that'll conduct electricity since like the 1960s. So that actually did used to be true, but it hasn't been for a long, long time. Yeah, I'm kind of that way too.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just barely understand batteries, which is why I keep showing up.
Yes.
For your battery list. But now I heard like converters. How do you know if you've got one, or is there an automatically converters come with in your vehicle?
Very good question. I'll start it, and I'm going to let him finish it. The question is she's not sure what she's got in her coach, whether it's a converter or an inverter, and if so, what does that mean? So And a converter takes 110 through a transformer, makes somewhere between 9 and 18 volts, and that's why we like to have a battery in there to clean it up. A inverter is the exact opposite. It takes 12 volts and makes 110. So when you're dry camping, you want to run the microwave, you just turn the inverter on and you don't need to start the generator, or if there's no current bush or anything around you. So that's the difference between the two. I'm stealing your thunder here, I'm sorry. In about 2006 or 7, the world started shifting to the smart converters. And if you have a smart converter, they're usually advertised as that they have charge protection. And what they do is they sample the potential at the battery, and they actually will turn off the charge circuit in the converter. They drop the voltage output once the battery reaches about 13.5 volts. So if you have a 1995 Caveman camper and you plug it in and you walk away from it, it'll cook the battery in a few days, because that old ferro-resonant converter, it put out 17 volts come hell or high water, and it will destroy batteries. But if you have a newer coach like yours, which is a 2014, you have the new, everybody by then was using the smart converters, and yours will not damage. Anything else to add now that I ruined it for you?
Converter is just a different way of thinking of battery charger. So everybody has a converter of some sort. Some of them are built into your breaker panel, and they're quite small, and some of them are built into an inverter and can be really, really large and can put out 100 amps, 150 amps even. But everybody has a converter of some sort on board.
I got a question. I got a 2018 36-foot Jake.
Okay.
Do I have to be plugged into electric to use my microwave?
Do you have an inverter?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
What was the question?
He's got a Jayco travel trailer, 2018.
Yeah, 36 foot.
So the question was, does he have to be plugged in to use the microwave? I would say probably. Most travel trailer manufacturers don't automatically put in an inverter. It would be an option. And if there were one in there, it would probably be a smaller one that would just run your TVs perhaps. Because to have a bigger one that would run appliances, you would need bigger batteries. And they try to keep the weight down in travel
I
trailers.
guess the best way to find out is unplug it and turn the TV on.
There you go.
Expound a little bit more about an inverter.
I didn't.
He wants to talk about inverters.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead with that, or are you going to get to that later?
I'm good with it, but you want to try it?
Okay, so an inverter, it takes battery power, steps it up to 110 so that you can run TVs, microwaves, things like that without having shore power or without having your generator running. But they use the batteries to do that. So if you're going to have a big enough inverter to run appliances, you're going to need a bigger battery bank. You can put a really small inverter in there and just run a TV, for example. But if you want to run a coffee pot or a microwave, anything that's going to draw, 1,000 watts, you're going to need a pretty good size inverter and a pretty good size battery bank to do that.
They make a couple different kinds of inverters. There is the small standalone, which is like Phil was saying, we could run your little TV. A very popular one is for those folks that have sleep apnea, and so they have the machine, and if they dry camp, they need good 12 volts or good 110 to run their apnea machine overnight. And Zamp Solar makes a wonderful inverter just for sleep apnea machines with an outlet and a wall switch. It's just cool. But they make a small pure sine wave just for that machine. There's a lot of them out there that are small, that are you can buy from Harbor Freight or Walmart or wherever, but they're usually a modified sine, which is a clipped form of power, and it's not very clean. It'll run some things. It might charge your cell phone, might not. It confuses high-end electronics. It'll run a toaster just fine. It'll run a coffee pot just fine. But if you want to run a laptop or something, you need pure sine wave that is identical to the type of power coming out of the outlet. We have in America very good quality power, and the pure sine wave inverters can mimic that and do a very good job. They're a lot more money. And then we have the hardwired inverters, which power the outlets, the microwave, all of the, they don't run the air conditioner or the refrigerator or the water heater, because these inverters are extremely inefficient. Well, they're efficient, but the appliances they tend to run, like water heaters and air conditioners, are extremely inefficient. So unless you've got a trailer full of batteries, an inverter is really not going to do you any good to run your air conditioner. You might as well just suck it up and buy a generator, because inverters just don't do that. But they're great for microwaves, TVs, laptops, charging your cell phone, toasters, coffee pots, apnea machines, satellite systems. They're great for it. Now, I want to put a plug in for me. I am really into, sorry, you'll be okay. I'm really into solar and inverter, and a lot of times people are just evolving into their RV, and at some point they realize they like dry camping and they don't want the nuisance of their generator, or they want to dry camp somewhere for an extended period of time. Well, that's something that I've always been fascinated in, and so I've kind of gravitated to that. It's not my job, but I like to do it. If you get to where you want to talk to somebody about an inverter or solar panels, it's a very personal thing. It has to do with what kind of coach you have, how you want to use it, how long you want to be there, and you got to find a guy that really knows how to talk that's done it a lot, and I'm one of those guys. I just love that stuff. And if you are interested in solar or inverter, it's a little expensive. These solar panels that we use are made by Zamp, and they're actually made. John Zamp borrowed a ton of money over in Bend, and he built a facility, and he's actually building his 160-watt panels, and he's building more of his electronics in Bend, Oregon. And Zamp is extremely high quality solar, and it's no more money than Camping World or anybody else, but it's good. And the solar panels have a 25-year warranty. For 25 years, they guarantee the output within 80% and then guarantee the quality and craftsmanship. 25 years. That means that you spend that money, and then in a few years you trade that coach in. We take those panels off your old coach and we put them on your new coach, because they'll last. They do an excellent job. So having put my plug in for those, I just am fascinated with that. Is there any more questions about solar or batteries?
As far as the solar,
I'm sorry. So anyway, I'm sorry I'm hogging this. I'll let you talk about poop in just a minute. So, yeah. No, I haven't started yet. So the question is she had noticed we have portable solar over there, and is that enough? Is that going to help her? There are two kinds of solar, and the portable solar if you were to talk to your police department, they're going to tell you that the highest theft item on Craigslist is a Honda or a Yamaha portable generator. Number 2 would be solar. Number 3 would be one of these worthless portable satellite dishes. Solar is a very high theft item because the people that are stealing them know what they're worth. They're worth a lot of money. For years I did seminars at like FMCA and places like that. Right next to me was this guy that sold the solar panels, and he would take a 100-watt panel out of the box, drop it on the concrete, and he would stand on that 100-watt solar panel all day long with his shoes on, walking around on that solar panel. Back in the 80s when ARCO was developing the ARCO 45-watt panel, the government did tests on it because they were trying to understand exactly what it was. They mounted these panels on a tin shed, and they did everything to them, hail, rain, they blasted fire hose on them. They did all sorts of things. And when they were done, the only thing left was the solar panels. The way they're designed is a laminate with the aluminum frame. They're virtually indestructible, except if you twist them, just like glass. If you have a nice little mirror and you twist it and it goes pink, once you crack it, these are layered panels and you break the circuits. Another thing is if you had a solar panel a little bit bigger than this and you waved your hand over it like that, if it makes a shadow and you can see it, it'll turn it off. So when you install your panels, we install them flat on the roof, and you need about 3 feet before the first branch in the tree. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money. But portable high theft, they can be damaged. We don't sell too many. A permanent mount, it has minimal intrusion. It's just got some stainless steel Z brackets to stand it off the roof. Because on a hot day like yesterday, you could cook lunch, dinner, breakfast on it. You can boil eggs on them, fry eggs. They get really hot. So they have to have air circulation. But the permanent mount ones are the way to go. To answer the second half of your question, what you need, again, that's really personal. If you guys don't have an inverter and you're not watching a lot of TV, just a few lights and water pump and things like that, you don't need much. And much would be the single panel 160 watt kit is the most economic way. We have some old 100 watts, but a 100 watt panel kit installed with a 30 amp charger is only like $100 less than 160, because that is the latest generation and they're much more efficient. The old panels there's 3 primary colors: red, blue, green. Red is basically too hot. It's heat and it doesn't work well. So that gives them 2 colors, and they were only using blue. They couldn't figure out how to do green. And then a few years ago, they figured out how to use green light, and so they added a second layer. Yeah, this is 10, 15 years ago now. But the newer panels are much more efficient than the older panels. So be careful if you're trying to buy some Harbor Freight panels. You look at the output, and they're very inefficient because they're the older style. So a 160 watt panel, which is where I would tell you to start, is about 8 amps an hour. And on a good day, well, let's take a day like today. It's overcast, broken, and later tonight it's going to be a scorcher. You probably get 6, 8, 10 hours of sufficient radiation to max out the panel. So let's say 8 hours, 8 amps an hour, that's 64 amp hours. Typically, when my wife and kids and I would go on our fifth wheel and up to Mount Rainier or somewhere, we could do a battery a day, about 85 amp hours. And so if we were going for 3 days, I'd have 3 batteries. Being an anal service manager, I carried the extra batteries because that's just who I am. So to answer your question, if it's just you two and you're very careful, one solar panel will carry you through. Now on a hot scorcher where we have 12, 15 hours a day down in Arizona, it'll do a lot better. But if you like to go camping up in the winter where we have maybe 4 hours of good usable high intensity radiation, it's better to have overkill. So in the winter you still have enough power. But typically if a person is frugal, 40 to 50 amp hours a day. And anything above that, you know, if you have a big inverter, you know, we sell coaches that have household electric refrigerators. We put 6 160 watt panels on the roof, 60 amp charge controller, and 8 to 10 batteries. But then they will run that household refrigerator and everything else for 24 hours. So it's...
The answer to almost every question becomes it depends. Many things depend on how you use your coach. He switches us back and forth, I think. So the answer is always going to be it depends. You kind of have to look at how much energy you use during a day to determine how much energy you need to put back into those batteries each day, and then buy panel sizes accordingly. And plan for the future. You know, if you're going to add things later and you're buying solar now, you might plan for that. It might be cheaper to do it all at once.
He was
You basically just answered my question in the last paragraph.
Oh,
Just
okay.
answered my question. But just go real quick. I have a 2006 coach. We put in a residence refrigerator. So it's pretty hard to dry camp.
right.
We very seldom dry camp, but once in a while it's nice to have that extra power and the batteries run down. I've got a couple quotes here in Eugene, put solar on my roof, and they all talk about $16,000, $18,000, which to me is ludicrous. But you just said 6, 8 panels might do it for me. And if that's the case, what we're running.
6 panels is what we have kind of it's settled out to. 660 watt panels, it's right at $6,500. That's just for the 6 panels, the big charge controller. That doesn't include extra batteries.
What would you recommend my coach? Probably 6 to 8 panels, something like that, 7,000, 8,000.
Yeah, you're looking, I would, yeah, it's about, it plays out to about $1,000 a panel for 160 watt panels.
That includes labor.
Oh yeah, we don't play that game. This is the price. It isn't oh this, oh this, oh this. That's it.
And those have roughly a 20-year warranty.
25-year warranty. Yeah, now that's on the product. We don't guarantee ourselves that long. But the product, the charge controller has a 2-year warranty. The solar panels have a 25-year warranty.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions on the batteries? We got off in the weeds just a little bit. Couple things I'd like to, you have something?
On batteries and on inverters, solar panels, another real common issue that we see is people's batteries are dead and it's time to replace them and they're only a year or 2 old. And they'll say, but I run my generator for an hour every day to charge them up. And that's a huge mistake. If you're running your generator every day to charge your batteries, if your batteries have gotten fairly low, I mean, it can take 18, 20 hours to fully recharge a battery like that if it's dead. As it gets more charged, it accepts less and less and less. So you can get maybe 80% of the charge in there in a couple of hours, and it takes hours and hours and hours to get topped off. So running your generator for an hour a day is constantly undercharging your batteries. It's killing them. And it's a real common issue. A lot of people don't realize that just getting that little bit of charge in there makes it look like they're working, but every time you undercharge your batteries, you're just taking a little bit of life out of it and a little bit of lifespan out of it. So if you do a lot of dry camping, you don't have solar, and you have to run your generator to charge your batteries, you really need to, if your charger tells you that it's bulk charging or absorption charging or float charging, wait until you get to that float stage at the very least, and then you'll know your batteries are just about full. If it's a simpler monitor panel that just gives you indicator lights, at least run that generator for 3 or 4 hours each day, at the very least. to make sure those batteries really get some charge into them.
A comment on that, generators don't charge batteries. How do they do it?
They provide 110 for the converter, so the converter can charge the batteries. Yeah.
One of the things that we like to do is talk safety a little bit. And at the end of the battery discussion, we always want to mention you have a battery disconnect by your steps if you have a motorhome, and the reason you have that is not for storage of your batteries. You pull into a gas station, or if you pull into up to Seattle and you get on the ferry, you pull into a gas station, the federal government mandates these disconnects so that as you pull up, you get out to pump your gas, you turn off the battery disconnect. That disables all your ignition sources, and that's what it's for. It is so that when the guy's standing there pumping gas, right next to it, the water heater doesn't kick on and all of a sudden tick, tick, tick. So battery disconnects are a safety issue, and that's what they're intended for. But we use them because they work very well for disconnecting most of the 12-volt electrical. And sometimes people are upset because they turn their battery disconnect off and some things are still on. And we explain to them, well, the whole purpose of a battery disconnect is a safety issue. And there may be a reason why the manufacturer left that circuit live. It can be dealt with, but that's why the manufacturer did that. Any other comments on that? Okay. Any other questions? You're looking a little puzzled. You okay?
So if you have a travel trailer, it's the same issue, turn your battery off and gas?
I'm sorry, I didn't get
So
that.
when you have a travel trailer,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, you should turn off your battery. I mean, what if you don't have your water heater on?
Uh-huh.
Is that the only thing that could be cause a ignition?
The question is, if you have a trailer, do you turn them off? A lot of them don't have disconnects, but you want to field that?
Yeah, ours has a disconnect, but I'm just saying, like, you're saying whenever you get gas, for example, turn it off.
Well, the law states that if they provide a disconnect, they are required by law, and so you're not going to be. If you have a toy hauler and you have a fuel station, yes, absolutely. If you just have a regular trailer, you're not going to have. I would have to say it's your discretion. No? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the other answer, though, is, and this is another one of those it depends answers. When you travel, you're really supposed to turn the gas off. Now, a lot of people don't. So, you really shouldn't have an issue with your appliances trying to fire up while you're trying to get fuel. But the trailer itself is generally far enough from the gas pumps that really wouldn't be an issue. But it doesn't hurt. Most people actually never turn their gas off when they travel. They leave their refrigerator on auto, and if the wind blows it out while you're on the road, it relights. I've never really heard of any issues caused by doing that, but you're really not supposed to do that for safety. Yeah.
I think that to clarify it, and I'm half deaf, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating, but we'll talk about propane here in a little while for a minute, but it is against the law to go down the road with your propane cylinders open. Now, frame-mounted tanks are different. The federal laws do not require that. Let's say you have a Class A and you're going down the road and it's like 4 degrees outside. Your furnace is actually designed to be able to operate while you're driving down the road. So in a motorized vehicle, they have frame-mounted tanks, and that is legal to operate with the appliances running. In a towed vehicle where they are not protected by the frame, it is against the law in all 50 states to operate that vehicle with the propane turned on. Now, as far as the disconnects for the batteries, he and I are saying, well, it just all depends, but the application is for gas stations. But if you turn off your battery disconnect, that turns off your ability to charge your batteries while you're driving down the road. So driving down the road, leave it on. If you pull into a gas station and you're a little nervous, just reach over and turn it off. I'm a heavy believer in battery disconnects. So if you have a trailer or something that doesn't have it, we have inexpensive disconnects. Everybody sells them. They're 20 bucks and they're easy to install, and you install them on the ground side, and it just separates the battery so that it cannot discharge, and it's just good for the battery. Any other questions on this? Putting you to sleep? Plumbing systems. Are we ready to move on to plumbing? Am I putting you to sleep? Yeah. I usually don't do this too much of the plumbing because Dave Taylor just loves talking about poop, and for those of you who have been here before, you know, that's just his thing. And I think that Phil's following in his footprints. Usually what we talk about is why it's so important to use this stuff, what happens, and
What is that?
you just instilled a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I've seen Dave draw his diagrams. I'm not going to do that. I like the way you get to talk about the fun stuff like solar, and I get to talk about holding tanks.
Yeah.
If I seem a little nervous, I kind of am. I don't normally get up in front of people and talk. I'm usually under a coach somewhere with a wrench in my hand. But this stuff is called Happy Camper. And what it is it's a chemical that you can put in your gray tank and especially your black tank. And it's not just a deodorant. It's got enzymes in it that stimulate the bacteria that break things down in your tank. And it's one of the best ones out there. We use it here a lot. It can help keep your tanks a little fresher, control that odor. But its biggest use is it breaks down the solids that are in, especially in the black tank. So they have less tendency to accumulate on the sides of the tank, or even in the bottom of the tank, and clog your drain pipes. And the reason that's important is your monitor panels. We get a lot of complaints that, you know, my monitor panel doesn't work properly. My black tank indicates that there's something in there when I've just drained it and I know it's empty. It's usually not a monitor panel fault. It's usually because there are solids built up inside the tank. They're fooling the sensors. And chemicals like this really, really help. You put a little bit in water, dissolve it, put it in your tank, and as your tank fills up, it's already eating the solids that are in there and keeping them broken down and keeping them liquefied, so they don't tend to want to build up on the sides, and they flush out easily when you drain your tanks. And then an additional defense in that is keep your tanks clean. You know, after you drain your tanks, if at all possible, if you have a built-in tank rinse, use it. Blast some fresh water in there while you have your sewer hose hooked up. Clean the inside of those tanks and drain that water out too. And that'll help keep those monitor panel sensors from being fooled. Let's see. Another thing that we see a lot of is if you're camping in a spot for a long period of time and you can leave your hose hooked up, your sewer hose hooked up, don't leave the valve open. Leave the valve closed, let the tank fill halfway or so or more, and then drain it. And the reason for that is the water wants to flush right on out of there and leave the solids behind, and they start drying out and they build up, and if you let that happen very long, that gets really hard to break that up, and that can clog your pipes, it can clog the drain valve, and again, it can fool your monitor panel. So you should always let that tank get full. The solids and the liquid mix, the stuff keeps it all liquefied, and then when you drain it, it drains away. Close the valve again and you're good to go. Did I get it without drawing a picture of a turd on the,
No, we don't need that. He's got a question.
So Kappa Chem doesn't have the enzymes in it though.
the which?
Kappa Chem,
I don't know, you know, what's in various different brands, but I would imagine that they're all pretty similar. Just putting a deodorizer in the tank really doesn't accomplish much. You really need something that stimulates that bacteria and keeps that stuff broken down.
so you're in campground and you go dump and then you drive home. Should you put in that stuff or whatever you put it in right away, or wait till you get home to do it, or is it better?
Personally, I would wait. If you're not going to use, you know, your trailer for a while, I would wait to put it in when I'm ready to start using it again, probably. For a couple of reasons. I don't know, once you mix this with water and activate it, and then don't feed it, if it'll be effective, you know, months down the road. I don't know. But more importantly, if you just drop a gallon of water with some of this in the bottom of the tank and then don't use it, it's going to dry out. And then when you start using it, it's got to dissolve that and get that mixed in, and that may not work as well either. So I would probably wait until I'm going to use my coach before I put this in, and to put it in, you know, before you leave home.
Did you have a question, sir? Oh, okay. I would just rapidly, I'd just like to do this if I could. Tell you how I do it. And for those of you that have been doing this 100 years, you have your own way of doing it. But my wife and kids and I did all dry camping pretty much, and you have to have, in the federal and in the national parks, you have to have a shovel, an axe, and a bucket. So the way I did it, when we were all done getting ready to go home, we'd stop and dump. The first thing you do when you hook up is you open the black tank. You dump your black tank, no? Okay, dump your black tank. Second thing you do is open your gray tank. Then after the black is gone, you open the gray and it kind of sloshes and rinses. And then what I do, before I close the valves, I take a bucket of water and dump it down the toilet. One final little rinse. Close my valves, put my hose away, and then the last thing I do is I fill my bucket up one last time, put chemical in it, and dump it down the toilet. Now I got a couple gallons of water and chemical sloshing around, living in the tank. This one in particular, and several others, have enzymes in them, and they actually live off of beta cellulose and organic tissue. And so if you have a little bit of Dave's favorite topic impaled on a probe or something, and you have some toilet paper in there, this will actually eat it, and it's actually really good for the system. As long as you have a chemical that has an enzyme, there's a lot of chemical companies out there, especially Thetford. They make a great toilet, but they buy their chemicals from China, and I don't think I'm a real conspiracy theorist, but it's been proven that China doesn't always use the cleanest chemicals, and they actually have found that countries like that will slip in a small amount of toxins to get rid of them a little bit at a time. And so I highly recommend not using any chemicals made by Thetford. This company started out as American Chemical, and they were selling holding tank starter in the turn of the century 100 years ago in Sears and Roebuck catalog. And they didn't know it was an enzyme back then, but they've been selling this, and it's just here to eat the toilet paper and the organic material. And yes, you put it down your gray tank in your shower, put a couple tablespoons down there once in a while, and it'll eat up the body oils, the soap film, and in the gray tank too. Any last questions on that?
This stuff works well enough that we use it in the shop to unclog clogged tanks. Instead of using a couple of tablespoonfuls of it in a couple of gallons of water, the normal dose, we'll put a whole can of it in there, leave it overnight, and that tank will get warm. And a lot of times, probably 80% of the time, it'll break down a clog in that tank, which saves me from having to disassemble your trailer and pull your tank out to clean it, which, by the way, is almost never going to be covered by warranty, and you don't want to pay that bill. So it's really a good idea to use your chemicals.
I have a question. You said that you should always keep your valves closed. Okay, now what do you do in the wintertime when the damn thing freezes?
Well, so the question is, I said that you should keep your holding tank valves closed until you need to dump. And what do you do in the wintertime when the tanks freeze? There's a couple of answers to that, but if you were to leave your valves open in freezing weather, every time water goes down the pipe, some of it's going to freeze in there, and it's eventually going to make an ice freeze up anyway. So the correct answer is, if you're going to have to use your unit in the wintertime in freezing weather, make sure you protect those tanks. You know, if the unit doesn't provide for heated tanks, find a way. Make sure those doors seal, add insulation if you need to, get a small heater to put in there, whatever it takes. Don't let those tanks freeze, because that's a really bad deal when they crack and you end up having to replace frozen tanks.
So is there anything you should do with your freshwater tanks annual basis? How would you sanitize a fresh tank?
I like green water. I don't see why you'd have to sanitize your tank.
I'm sorry?
I forget who's hard of hearing. If you don't use your coach year-round, each season when you're going to put it back into service, you should also sanitize the freshwater tank. Most manufacturers include instructions in your owner's manual on how to do it in your particular unit, and we've discovered that most of them are so generic it's wrong for your particular unit. You still have to figure out how to do it, but essentially you want to get, I use bleach, and you want to get some bleach into the tank and then fill it up. Run all of your faucets, even your shower, and let it go all the way into your pipes. And when I'm getting my trailer ready to go in the spring, I'll do that and let it sit for a couple of days. And then I'll drain it all back out, put fresh water in the tank, fill it all the way back up, flush out the lines, drain the tank again. Any residual bleach that might be in there is so small you won't taste it. It will just taste like city water. But that'll sanitize the tank and kill whatever might have tried to grow in there over the winter time. It's really that simple. Some coaches provide you with a gravity fill that you could pour water right into the tank. These days that's getting rarer and rarer, so you have to get creative in how to get that bleach into the tank. You know, I've done things like have somebody hold up the other end of my garden hose and fill my hose with it, and then connect it and flush it in there. But it's really worth doing. We're not just talking about water that doesn't taste good, but you know, things can grow in the residual water that was left in there from your last trip. You don't want that.
How often should you sanitize during the summer?
If you're using your unit a lot, you know, every spring is really all you probably need to do. But if you're putting it in storage for a couple of months between trips, it's not a bad idea to do it before each trip, just to make sure that you don't have bacteria growing in the tanks that's going to end up in your cereal bowl in the morning.
Couple questions. I've been reading about vinegar, white vinegar. Is white vinegar do the same thing?
It will, yeah. And in fact, a lot of people prefer vinegar because they don't like the smell of the chlorine, or are afraid that they'll leave chlorine flavor behind. But
I was more, we were just doing it this morning, and I was concerned because we got your hose that you have for the RV that connects to the motorhome, and it's flexible. It's like those hoses that you use and you turn it off and they just wrap it. If you know what I'm talking about.
I think so, yeah.
You came in and you guys talked to me about it. You said you really, really like it. So I bought that, but I'm concerned about putting bleach in it because I'm afraid it might do some damage.
that's entirely possible, yeah.
Because those hoses are great, but they don't last forever.
Yeah. So if you were, going to use the pour your sanitizing agent in the hose trick, you'd probably not. It wouldn't really work with one of those
did.
collapsible hoses anyhow, because when it's collapsed, there's not much hose there. you know.
Exactly, exactly. So I was thinking using vinegar instead of bleach because vinegar doesn't harm things. And it's still an acid and it still cleans.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people think that vinegar works better. I think it's a common misconception. If you get mildew or something like that and you spray a little bleach mixture on it, really all it does is bleach it out so you don't see it, but it doesn't generally kill the mildew, but vinegar will.
Yes.
Especially if you can mist it on there and just let it dry. It disappears, the smell goes away, and that residue is dangerous to bacteria, even though it doesn't hurt us.
So I'm asking you for your thoughts because you're the professional. How would you recommend me getting that vinegar in that hose? Disconnect the hose and put it directly into the, would you put a funnel in it? It's so small. I just thought it probably easy. And then I did it by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'd even try to put it in one of those self-retracting hoses. I'd use a regular hose just for that sanitizing process. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
If you're gonna, when you're storing your unit for a while, should you drain the fresh water? Absolutely. Yeah, because it'll just sit in there, especially in the summer, it'll just sit in there, it'll get warm. And depending on how fresh the water was, if it was city water, you get a fighting chance. But if it was well water, it's already got bacteria and things in it, and it's going to start growing. So you really shouldn't leave water in those tanks unless you're actually using your trailer.
For how long? Rule of thumb.
How long would you leave it before you should worry about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't leave water in mine for more than a week or so, probably. Plus, it's easy to drain it and put fresh water in there usually. Unless you're someplace where water just doesn't exist and it's hard to find, there's no real reason to keep it. And you don't even have to worry about, it's not like your holding tank. You can drain that fresh water out of the tank in your driveway. It's not going to hurt anything.
And then every time you do that, sanitize it with the bleach, or is that?
No, if you're just going to, if you're going to use your unit again in a couple of weeks or even a month or two, I don't think that I'd bother to sanitize it again. But after a couple of months, I probably would. Unless you're going to blow it out and run potable antifreeze through it or whatever, the water that stays hidden in the pipes and stuff is still water and still subject to turning green and getting punky on you.
So the last 20 years, my wife and I, we use our motor almost 12 months a year. And we follow the instructions that Dan just gave. We've never had trouble with our sensors clogging or the tank getting dirty. Never. So it's always worth that little extra effort. We always flush it out at least once or twice a week.
Yeah,
It's not a bad sign. Been 20 years, but never had any trouble.
it's one of those, if you get into the habit of doing things like that, it just becomes part of your routine and it's not such a big chore. These things can be handy. They make a version of this that's longer, that has a high pressure nozzle on it that you can, if your toilet is a direct drop into the tank, if you can look down there and see into the tank, you can use a wand if you don't have a built-in flush and spray water around in there and clean it out. And those are really handy too. This particular one's for water heater, but same kind of principle.
On the sanitation of the lines and then the flushing them out, do you have a suggestion, easy way to do that ice maker line?
Easy way to do the ice maker line. Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, I blow it out with air, and then I try to run fresh water through it and cycle a few loads of ice.
But that's time consuming.
Very,
Yeah. What I do in mine is I disconnect the line on the valve on the back of the refrigerator that goes to the ice maker and let that drain out. And then when I blow everything out, I actually use a jumper wire on it and trip that solenoid and let that blow out.
Yeah, right.
And but not everybody might want to do that. That jumper wire, we call it a dead man for a reason.
Yeah.
But if you can get it to cycle while you have the mixture in there, that's a good way to do it. It's hard to get it to cycle on command when you're blowing it out. And that's why either disconnecting the line coming into the solenoid or jumping the solenoid will help flush that out.
I'm doing pretty good, but from there up to the,
We don't want to have antifreeze up in the ice maker.
No, we don't want
Stains it,
antifreeze up in there,
and,
but he was talking about the sanitizing
yeah.
solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, the line that the small line that comes out of the ice maker valve that goes up to the ice maker, most refrigerators these days, it's actually got heat tape on it as well. And it's kind of a pain with your fingertips in there to get it loose, but I'll loosen that up and let that drain. Yeah. And then when you put it back into service, throw away that first batch of ice that it makes.
Any other questions on where we're on right now, which I'm not sure? Usually about now we take a little break, when about 10 minutes, stretch your legs, get something to drink and eat. After we come back, we're going to be talking about maintenance and some very interesting issues. If you got to go, you got to go. If not, come back in about 10 minutes and we'll start this all over again for about another hour.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Guaranty RV Supercenters shows our appreciation for you, our valued customers, by providing free seminars each month that will make your RVing experience more enjoyable. These fun, informative, and interactive seminars are held at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the second Saturday of the month and last at least 2 hours, sometimes longer. Our highly qualified managers and technicians will share their experience on topics specific for the time of year and will stay until all of your questions are answered. Our seminars are held inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center on Highway 99 in Junction City, Oregon. Complimentary snacks and drinks are provided. Please call us at 541-998-4285 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has a website? On it, you can find directions and phone numbers for our 14 locations, make an RV service appointment, get more information on hundreds of new and used RVs, and even watch a walkthrough video tour for many of our vehicles. Please visit us at www.guaranty.com for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has an RV park? We offer 55 spaces with full hookups and 50 amp service, complimentary Wi-Fi, a fenced-in pet park, and more. Call 855-6-RV-PARK for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV Travel Center has over $1 million in RV parts in stock? Our 11,000 square foot showroom is open every day for your convenience. We also offer RV service, RV rentals, propane refills, a laundromat, and a cafe serving hot food. Call 888-982-7976 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
The Guaranty Cafe and Grocery inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center is open every day at 7 a.m., serving hot breakfast. Join us for lunch or enjoy one of our daily specials. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we serve dinner from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Enjoy a local wine or choose from 16 different craft beers on tap to go with your meal. Eggs are cheaper in the country, and here at the Guaranty Cafe, they taste better too.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Guaranty RV Supercenters shows our appreciation for you, our valued customers, by providing free seminars each month that will make your RVing experience more enjoyable. These fun, informative, and interactive seminars are held at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the second Saturday of the month and last at least 2 hours, sometimes longer. Our highly qualified managers and technicians will share their experience on topics specific for the time of year and will stay until all of your questions are answered. Our seminars are held inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center on Highway 99 in Junction City, Oregon. Complimentary snacks and drinks are provided. Please call us at 541-998-4285 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has a website? On it, you can find directions and phone numbers for our 14 locations, make an RV service appointment, get more information on hundreds of new and used RVs, and even watch a walkthrough video tour for many of our vehicles. Please visit us at www.guaranty.com for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has an RV park? We offer 55 spaces with full hookups and 50 amp service, complimentary Wi-Fi, a fenced-in pet park, and more. Call 855-6-RV-PARK for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV Travel Center has over $1 million in RV parts in stock? Our 11,000 square foot showroom is open every day for your convenience. We also offer RV service, RV rentals, propane refills, a laundromat, and a cafe serving hot food. Call 888-982-7976 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
The Guaranty Cafe and Grocery inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center is open every day at 7 a.m., serving hot breakfast. Join us for lunch or enjoy one of our daily specials. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we serve dinner from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Enjoy a local wine or choose from 16 different craft beers on tap to go with your meal. Eggs are cheaper in the country, and here at the Guaranty Cafe, they taste better too.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Guaranty RV Supercenters shows our appreciation for you, our valued customers, by providing free seminars each month that will make your RVing experience more enjoyable. These fun, informative, and interactive seminars are held at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the second Saturday of the month and last at least 2 hours, sometimes longer. Our highly qualified managers and technicians will share their experience on topics specific for the time of year and will stay until all of your questions are answered. Our seminars are held inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center on Highway 99 in Junction City, Oregon. Complimentary snacks and drinks are provided. Please call us at 541-998-4285 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has a website? On it, you can find directions and phone numbers for our 14 locations, make an RV service appointment, get more information on hundreds of new and used RVs, and even watch a walkthrough video tour for many of our vehicles. Please visit us at www.guaranty.com for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has an RV park? We offer 55 spaces with full hookups and 50 amp service, complimentary Wi-Fi, a fenced-in pet park, and more. Call 855-6-RV-PARK for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV Travel Center has over $1 million in RV parts in stock? Our 11,000 square foot showroom is open every day for your convenience. We also offer RV service, RV rentals, propane refills, a laundromat, and a cafe serving hot food. Call 888-982-7976 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
The Guaranty Cafe and Grocery inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center is open every day at 7 a.m., serving hot breakfast. Join us for lunch or enjoy one of our daily specials. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we serve dinner from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Enjoy a local wine or choose from 16 different craft beers on tap to go with your meal. Eggs are cheaper in the country, and here at the Guaranty Cafe, they taste better too.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Guaranty RV Supercenters shows our appreciation for you, our valued customers, by providing free seminars each month that will make your RVing experience more enjoyable. These fun, informative, and interactive seminars are held at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the second Saturday of the month and last at least 2 hours, sometimes longer. Our highly qualified managers and technicians will share their experience on topics specific for the time of year and will stay until all of your questions are answered. Our seminars are held inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center on Highway 99 in Junction City, Oregon. Complimentary snacks and drinks are provided. Please call us at 541-998-4285 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has a website? On it, you can find directions and phone numbers for our 14 locations, make an RV service appointment, get more information on hundreds of new and used RVs, and even watch a walkthrough video tour for many of our vehicles. Please visit us at www.guaranty.com for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV has an RV park? We offer 55 spaces with full hookups and 50 amp service, complimentary Wi-Fi, a fenced-in pet park, and more. Call 855-6-RV-PARK for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
Did you know that Guaranty RV Travel Center has over $1 million in RV parts in stock? Our 11,000 square foot showroom is open every day for your convenience. We also offer RV service, RV rentals, propane refills, a laundromat, and a cafe serving hot food. Call 888-982-7976 for more information.
Thank you for watching the RV seminar. We will be back after a short break.
The Guaranty Cafe and Grocery inside the Guaranty RV Travel Center is open every day at 7 a.m., serving hot breakfast. Join us for lunch or enjoy one of our daily specials. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we serve dinner from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Enjoy a local wine or choose from 16 different craft beers on tap to go with your meal. Eggs are cheaper in the country, and here at the Guaranty Cafe, they taste better too.
Lost a couple. Now, if you've been here before, you know Dave and I go at it quite a bit, but we've been together worked together for so many years that I think it's just about pre-written history. It's been that long. So, when we started, most of the people were over here, but you notice that Phil's people have kind of half left. My people are all still here. I'm sorry?
You're harder to hear.
I am?
Yeah, I don't know if it's because your thing needs to be up high. A little, like the next button up.
So see, your ego was getting all involved.
You know, I hope I don't have much of an ego. I had too many experiences in my life to be egotistical. Are you about ready? All right. So welcome back and thank you. I'm sorry Phil's side kind of got a little anorexic, but my side's still going strong. So this time we are going to talk about appliances. And before I start turning it back over to him, one of the things that we do that I'm sure that just about everybody else does too, again, I'm not trying to sell you something, but I'm to tell you something that's very important. We do a spring tune-up. And if it's summer, it's a summer tune-up. In the fall, you get it, fall tune-up. In the winter, well, it's spring tune-up again. So anyway, we do a spring tune-up. And what is a spring tune-up? It's 2 hours of labor, and we get $130 an hour to pay for this beautiful facility and guys like him. I'm pretty much free. We charge $100 for it for 2 hours. And what it is a list of things that we serve, we go through, we clean your burners, this and that. But what I want to talk about before I turn it over to him is the most important thing you can do once a year is your LP system. My house has gas, but it's never gone anywhere, and I'm not worried about the manifold leaking, which is the pipe under the house for my appliances. In an RV, RVs are constantly flexing, the wind or driving it down the road, people moving around. And we have found through the years that eventually, if a brass fitting was too tight, it might crack, or some brass pipe might get rubbed, it could crack or split. Eventually, you're going to have a propane leak. In the state of Oregon, it is a law that states if you sell a coach, new or used, whether you are a private party or a dealership, you must do a LP system certification. Now, a lot of private parties don't know this and they don't press it, but if you have purchased a coach from a private party, I would highly recommend having an LP system test. Part of our spring, summer, fall, spring tune-up, we do a complete LP system test. We do a drop-down test which tests to see if there's any leaks in the system. We also do a dynamic flow, which means basically we want to see if your system will maintain pressure while the furnace is running and two burners are running and you're running all a heavy load. If a regulator is starting to fail and you're cooking dinner and you got water heater going, you start dropping pressure. On a good regulator, it can maintain pressure throughout the spectrum of the demand. On a bad regulator, you can't. We do that. We highly recommend it. There's other things that we do, but it is just inspecting, testing, and we may come to you and say, nice coach, Your water heater has an issue. We don't know what it is, but it won't light. All we do is inspect, we clean the burners and test your LP system. Now, if you have a problem with your LP system, this doesn't include that. But it also checks plumbing, electrical, holding tanks. I don't know.
We fill the fresh water tank, run all the faucets, leave that under pressure for a while and make sure you don't have any water leaks. Fire off all the appliances, make sure everything works. Anything that has a burner, your refrigerator burner, your water heater burner, we clean the burners, clean the chamber in the water heater, blow it out with compressed air, make sure there's no bees' nests in there and things like that. We do a propane check, and then drain the tanks back out, and at that point you should be good to go. If we discovered an issue while we were doing that, then we'll write it down and present it to you, and you have the option of having it repaired at that time or try to do it yourself. But it's a really good peace of mind to know that everything's ready to go, and like Dan said, it's a real bargain. You know, I can't do it in less than 2 hours, and they charge less than an hour worth of labor for, so it's worthwhile.
While we're talking about the propane systems, I'm a safety bug. A couple things I'd like to mention. We found out a few years ago, 100 years ago, I got RVIA. Is that what that was? We got certified back then? I was like in the first 10 back in the late 80s. I was involved in that, and I got certified. I forgot most of it, but a few years ago they came to this conclusion. For years, when we would tell people, if your propane detector goes off or you smell propane, propane is a colorless, odorless liquid at room temperature. So they put methyl mercaptan in there, which is essence of skunk oil. And that skunk oil is a brown oil. They put it in there so that you can smell the propane. So if you walk into your coach, oh, wasn't me. You know, it was, you have a propane leak and your propane detector's going off. We used to tell people to turn around, walk out, close the screen door to keep the bugs out. Maybe open a couple windows before you go out. But then somebody found out that propane in a gaseous state will not pass through a screen. So we started telling people a few years ago, if you smell propane in your coach, number one, don't turn any lights on or off. Don't touch anything. Don't go around opening windows because it won't do you any good. Turn around and walk out, take your dog, cat, whatever you got, walk out, leave the door and the screen door open, go around and turn your propane off, and then go for a walk. Go tell the neighbors don't smoke because you might have a bonfire. Propane will not pass through a screen door. So do not close them, just leave the screen door and the door open and walk out. Good safety thing. You don't want to see one blow up, and man, when they go, they go. So why I'm holding this is this methyl mercaptan that they put in propane so you can smell it. The bugs can smell it. They love the smell of this. Mud daubers, wasps, certain spiders, just it's nirvana for them. So they start building nests in our propane systems. And so people say, hey, let me put this over my exhaust port to keep the bugs out. But in the fine print somewhere, I know it says it, and I found it once, don't use these when you're using the appliance. So for years we didn't sell these. Then we decided to start selling them again, but we try to tell people these are okay for off-season, but the problem is if you put this on your furnace, and we have them for refrigerators, We have them for water heaters. The problem is it restricts the flow. So your furnace is working. Now it's working all plugged up. And what happens is it backs up the pressure in the burner. Now it doesn't burn right. Now if you have any cracks or leaks, you now have carbon monoxide being pushed back out into the box, and that's not healthy. So if you do decide to do this, you have to understand that you do not use these when you're using the appliance. It's only for the times of the year where you're not using that appliance, and it doesn't do any good because they, you know, when you're not using it, they don't smell it, they don't come around it. So, yes?
Okay, question. So that kind there, it's got a little spring hook on it, right?
Yeah.
So that's easy to get on and off.
Yeah.
On the refrigerator ones, it's a long strip. Is there a way to put those on so you can take them off?
Yeah, the question is how the refrigerator ones attach, and they supply you small zip ties, and so, well, you can cut them off. We had a guy in here the other day that was having a problem with his refrigerator in this heat not cooling well. And the first thing the tech did is, hey, Dan, come and look at this. He had these things, and these are hard to see because they go up inside the grill of the access door of the refrigerator. And they lay horizontally. So you look at it, you don't see them. He said, look at these, and it had them on there. And I said, well, take it off. And son of a gun if that refrigerator didn't just start working. Because in high temperature environments, they're not very efficient. So any little thing that you do to restrict airflow causes the appliance to fail.
I'm holding mine on with little twist ties. I just wondered
Yeah,
if there was
yeah.
anything better.
So if Dave was here, he has 20 or 30 little stories about using flea collars, and do you have any comments on that? Okay. Some people say put a flea collar near your burner, and I guess that works. He's nodding yes, so...
Fabric softener sheets is another one that apparently works. I've never tried any of those things.
Mothballs.
Mothballs?
Do what?
Yeah, but they smell really good.
Oh, okay. Or just, I know, bring it in for spring tune-up. We'll clean it up. Yes, ma'am.
Like, I don't know if it's too off topic or whatever, but do you know anything that like super keeps specifically like spiders away? Like bugs?
Actually, yes.
All that information is great.
I have boats. I sail. And spiders seem to love the docks and sailboats for some reason. And for years, I would grab a reed from the shore as I'm heading out to the dock and go around and knock down all the spider webs every time I'd go sailing. And there was an old guy out at the lake that never had spiders on his boat. If you can find old school bug spray, like Black Flag that you used to put in the sprayers and stuff like that, regular old everyday bug spray, and spray it and let it dry. It's not harmful to you or your pets or anything like that, but that residue that it leaves behind, spiders don't like it. And since I do that twice a year, in the spring and about midsummer, and I never have spiders on my boat. Now they make a specific sprays for spiders. One's called Spider Ban. I never had any luck with that. Like good old-fashioned Black Flag, it works great.
Black flag.
Yeah. Or any of the major brands that sell a generic bug spray.
Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. See, we talked about the spring tune-up, talked about the screens, talked about that. I guess we could get into maintenance. You want to start? This is one of my favorite stories. This is still in appliances. What's this thing for?
It's a water pick for your teeth. The best use for you can use this to put down the toilet to spray in there, but what it's really for is cleaning out your water heater. when you drain your water system, you open your low point drains, let the water out. The water in the water heater will drain down, but it leaves probably a gallon of water in there. And when the water heater operates, if it has an anode rod in there, that breaks down. The calcium that's in water separates out in the water heater, and you end up with a deposit in the bottom of the water heater in that layer of water that stays in there. So when you want to drain your water heater, your water system completely, and you want to drain your water heater. So you take the plug out, let the water out. And if you've ever done that, you've probably seen you get a lot of white stuff that makes a mess on the floor. You can put this on your hose and shove it in that drain hole and really flush that stuff out. And it's really handy for that. And if you do that, even just once a year, your water heater will stay cleaner, your drinking water will stay cleaner. It's worth doing. But you can also put this down the toilet and spray around inside your holding tank with it. And I think this actually says tank saver. Oh, RV water heater tank flushing tool. There you go.
I have a new motorhome as a year old. I got one of those just to have it. And I thought, well, I'll try and see how it works. But after the first year, I undid the plug in the tank, put that in there, and I could not believe the amount of stuff that came out. With a new water, a year old,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff accumulates in the bottom of it. Think of what a household water heater looks like after 20 years in the bottom of that tank.
I see that puzzled look on people all the time when I'm talking to them.
I just find it very interesting because we're new at this. We've been playing for 14 years, but we finally got one. And just all the little things. We still didn't know how to use the toy. You just answered the question earlier.
You're kind of on your own on that one. But so what he is saying, he's got a new coach a year ago, and he bought one of these because he got sick and tired of me talking about it. He said, okay. So then he used it, and he couldn't believe when Dave and I are doing these, and I was, next time I'll have you explain it. A lot of times when they're working on a water heater, they'll back the coach out. So when they do take that plug out, there's about a 10 or 12 foot fan, and sometimes they'll go get me and they say, Dan, look at all of that stuff. Oh my God, that's moving. You do this one time. You take the pressure out of your coach, take the plug out, and it'll go, and then you stick this sucker in there and blast everything out. And you look on the ground at all of the stuff that is sitting in the bottom of your freshwater hot water heater. You'll never drink the water when you take a shower again. Never. Because it's amazing, it collects there. And these things are the water pick, like he calls it, to get in there and really clean it out. You will be amazed at the stuff that collects. And you wonder where the odor comes from. It comes from your water heater. And that's what these are for, and they do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Water heater. I've been doing this for 35 years, and still, probably one time out of 4, when I pop that drain plug, it explodes all over me, and I remember, make sure your water pump is off or your hose is off, and open a faucet. Make sure you open a hot water faucet, and let that pressure out before you take that plug off. The plug goes pop, and the pressure inside that water heater just douses you. And it's not just water, it's all that deposit that's in there is now all over your clothes and stuff like that. And I still fall for that after all these years. And then after you've taken the plug out, the water's just going glug, 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 and it's not draining fast. Go ahead and pop open that pressure relief valve, and it'll drain right out really fast. And it won't hurt that pressure relief valve to open it and reclose it.
You don't want to be picking that stuff out of your teeth.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
When you do your spring cleaning, do you clean those tanks?
We don't. When we do a spring tune-up, he's asking, do we clean the tanks? I don't think we do. We test them, but we don't actually flush them.
Yeah. No, we would ordinarily never pull the drain plug, so we wouldn't need to.
Are there YouTubes that you can look up that kind of guide you through this, that manufacture?
Yeah. I know Dave Taylor, I keep talking about him. I don't know, I'm just used to having him here. He has done probably 50 YouTubes. But, you go onto YouTube and...
You can find anything.
Yeah. I'm smiling because one of our techs just got master certified, and the shop supervisor found online, it's a decal sticker type thing. It says YouTube Master Certified Tech. Because I think it's hilarious. He didn't appreciate it, but there's so much information on YouTube. You just type in what you're looking for, and it's out there. And some people, you get about a minute into it, and you say, oof, that guy's an idiot, and then the next guy is really good. So, yeah, that's a go-to place. Now, there's no substitute for sending a guy back to school and giving him all the books, because that's right from the manufacturers, and our techs all have to endure that, but they get the actual fact. But YouTube is, for a guy like you and me, that's the go-to place. You bet.
It's on the internet. We all know that if you see it on the internet, it must be true, right? Well, YouTube is the same way. So you kind of have to use a little common sense. You can usually tell if somebody's a bonehead, or if he really sounds like he knows what he's talking about. If you're going to look up a YouTube video on how to do something, look up 2 or 3 of them and see if people agree. But yeah, it's really handy. I even do it. We get new products that I haven't seen yet. Somebody's already got a YouTube video out there. Your freshwater tank?
Yeah, like I'm putting fresh water in my tank. How do I know when it's full? Or if I spray it and come back on?
Yeah, all freshwater tanks have to have a vent, because when you're using the water, air has to come in. So there has to be a vent. So you can just let it fill until water comes out the vent. Sometimes it's right there where the hose connects, but usually it's somewhere else. It'll come out underneath the coach, and you'll see that overflow, shut the water off. And it'll keep overflowing for a little while. Don't let that scare you, because you kind of pressurize the tank a little bit. It takes a little while for it to vent the rest of it out.
Okay. The last thing we have is maintenance, and I'm going to turn him loose on roofing. I have some chemicals here. Before I do, I want to talk about this. Your manufacturer, I don't know why they do it. They put in there, they're so proud of the fact that their roof is guaranteed for 10 years, which is a bunch of BS. The membrane is guaranteed for 10 years. It says in your owner's manual, depending on your manufacturer, you need to inspect your roof at least once every 6 months. If we do a spring, fall, summer, whatever tune-up, we do a free roof inspection. We do a free roof inspection anytime. Just call us up, say, hey, I need my roof looked at. Shop soup goes out and looks at it. What we're looking for is the sealants that actually seal that roof. They're the ones that flex, and when we had that really cold winter a few years ago, we started seeing heaving, where a little bit of moisture would get down into the sealant, and it would get so cold that the water crystallized, and it started pushing the sealants up. And so when we look at it, we look for, the word in the shop is voids. Oh, he's got voids in his roof. What they're looking at is your roof sealant, and we're looking for cracks and lifting and voids, anywhere where we've lost contact between the roof and the material. So what we do is we go up there, and if it's removable by flicking it off, then we remove it. If it's still anchored, we just go over it, and we will touch up the sealant. After we discuss this, some people come up and they start asking questions. You get with me, I'm happy to tell you how to do it, and I recommend if you bring it in, have us do a free roof inspection, and then I will tell you how to do it, and then we will sell you the materials, because these guys get 130 bucks an hour, and you can buy a lot of beer or wine for 130 bucks. And I can teach you how to do it, and sell you the materials. We have more than enough work. We don't need any more. So we are here to help you on that. The other thing is when this first came out, I thought it was a scam. If you have a membrane roof, then there's 3 or 4 different materials out there now. What we are finding is that material lays up there and it's porous, and we get algae growing in the pores, which doesn't really hurt anything. It's just green or red or black spots. But this will seal the pores. The other thing is that rubber is black and your roof is white, so it has pigment. And this pigment decays and it starts shedding off the side of your coach. So you get these gray and white streaks on the side of your coach, and they're a pain in the neck to clean off. So what this stuff does is you go up there and you pressure wash it, and you don't get carried away with the pressure, and you don't try and dig a hole. You keep about 6 to 9 inches, but a nice clean pressure wash. And then you go in and have a glass of wine and think about life, and then you come back out when it's dry and you just mop this on, glop, 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 slop it around, and it's like a shellac. And you do not get on your roof again if there's dew or rain, because now this is slicker and it makes it really slick. So you stay off your roof. But while you're applying it, this is very safe, easy thing to do. You get it on your roof, do it once a year. It will stop the gray, not the gray, but the white streaking, gray streaking. They call it industrial fallout, but it's pollution. Pollution comes down in the rain, it settles out, and then it rinses down the side of your coach. And if you put this on, you still have to deal with that, but you don't have to deal with the algae. You don't have to worry about things growing in there, like your pitch gets in there and it starts reacting with the rubber, and it'll actually eat a hole in there. This is a good protectant. It actually is good stuff. So I would highly recommend, if you don't do anything else, do this and seal your moldings and don't worry about life. There's several brands, but Protectol is by far my favorite.
If you have like a new trailer,
I'm sorry?
If you have a brand new trailer, how often would you wait a year to do that?
If I had a brand new trailer and your money, I would do this when I first got it. Now, for years, I would tell people when I was a service manager, the best thing you can do when you buy your new coach, because we're from the rain capital of the world. I don't know if you've ever heard that. It rains. And the way they build RVs is they have these corners and they put this barely fit molding on it, and it wicks water. And I've seen through the years brand new coaches come back 3 months later with rot. So I tell people, buy a tube of this or get some Parbon that's in a toothbrush or toothpaste tube, and go around every edge, every trim, every light, every window, every door, every compartment, all your molding, and just put a little of this stuff in there. Keep the water out of your molding. It really works. Brand new trailer, that is the best time to do it. Everything's fresh and clean. Just real quick, just a small bead. Do everything. If it's screwed on, put a little bead around it and do that on the roof. And the sooner you do it, the longer that thing will last. Now, big motorhomes, a lot of times, they have different kind of roof systems, but they still have seams. So you still need to do this, and you still need to look at your seams twice a year. Some of the manufacturers pay for voids for 3 months, and that's it. People say all the time, well, it has a 10-year warranty. Yeah, the material does, but the manufacturers specifically tell you to inspect your roof twice a year, and they don't pay for it because that's maintenance.
You know, the roof seals are fine, and then they're not. You know, everything is fine until it's not. And when not happens, you don't know when that's going to happen. And so the more often you get up there and look, you know, you're looking at all the seams, all the seals around the vents and everything, and you're just looking for cracks or openings in the sealant. As it dries, as the sun beats on it, it tends to shrink and want to crack open. And there's a simple rule with water leaks. If it looks like water could get in, water's getting in. And it's crazy how much water can get into the tiniest little opening and then find its way through your roof structure. You could have water dripping on the dash in a motorhome, and it's the shower skylight that's leaking in the back. And once that water gets in and starts running around, you don't want that, because getting it dried out, hoping that it's not damaging and rotting any wood that's in the structure, that's all a bad deal when it's so easy to just get up there and look and make sure those seals are good. And those seals can go quite quickly. You know, usually they don't go bad for at least a couple of years. And usually it's just a spot here and there. The skylight's the most common one because the edges of it want to curl and split that sealant. But it can happen really soon, and you really got to get up there and look. I've seen people that haven't been on their roof ever. They've had the unit for 10 years, and they've never had a water leak. They're really, really lucky. The opposite is usually what we see. And like Dan said, we'll do it for you. We do a free roof inspection. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to be there for another reason. And anytime you come in for service or to get something fixed, we'll do a free roof inspection for you. It just takes a few minutes to go up there and look around. But look closely and be critical. If it looks like, yeah, maybe, call it a leak. Find out what kind of sealant is used on that roof and get it sealed. Something else Dan said is if the seal is peeling and not intact anymore, we'll remove it. You know, we may have to do the whole roof. You know, after it's a few years old, sometimes we call it a peel and seal. And you get up there with putty knives and a torch, and you heat the knife, and you cut the sealant, and you remove as much of it as you can, and then you clean the area, and then you apply new sealant, something like this on there, nice and thick, like the original manufacturer did. We try to do it thicker than they do. And you don't want to do that. That's no fun. And you don't want to pay me to do that. I don't want to do it. It's no fun. But so the more often you check, those little touch-ups are easy, and you don't have to peel. Because it's the UV really that eats that stuff. And the heat shrinks it, the cold expands it, and the UV breaks it down. And once that process begins, it can accelerate pretty fast. And then once moisture gets in, that's a bad deal.
Talk about getting on the roof. I mean, it's probably not a good idea to stand up and walk around, or is it strong enough for that?
It should be. Older trailers, I had one that was built in the 80s, and I wouldn't walk around on that roof. I think all that was up there was a layer of lawn. But most new ones actually have a plywood layer on there, and you should be able to walk around. I mean, you don't want to throw your lawn chairs up there and party on the roof, but you should be able to walk on the roof of pretty much anything these days.
Did you say that pressure washer is a good option for cleaning the roof?
That's what we do. Yeah, we don't get carried away with it, you know.
Yeah, not too much pressure.
Yeah, medium pressure, you know. If you get one of those little electric 2800 PSI, those things are wonderful, and then keep it about 6 inches away. You're not trying to drill holes, but they absolutely. Now, if you have a stick and tin trailer and you're washing the sides, you always want to keep the wand horizontal or slightly down. You don't want to go up because that'll blast it up in the seams. So you just want to pay attention, cognizant of what you're doing, and don't pressure wash your roof vents because they'll just shatter. Roof vents, your refrigerator and your crank-up vents. Yeah, you don't even let them look at the pressure washer because they'll just shatter. Yeah.
Safety tip I use when I get up on the roof.
Don't drink.
Number two, that put the stabilizers down so that you walk around it.
Yeah, you got to be obviously careful, but newer construction. One point, back in the 70s and the 80s when we really didn't have a clue, they would put roof racks up there and they'd carry their spare tire. the roofs are not designed to carry a load. If you're not moving, bouncing, because if you have a 150-pound spare tire up there in a rack and that thing's going down the road like this, you know, it's going to break. And we used to see that. The old Winnebagos that have a broken arch, and, you know, the old coaches, they'd break the roof rafters like crazy. So we don't put anything on the roof, but, you know, I weigh a little over 250. Okay, I weigh 280, all right? I get up on them all the time, and you know, you just be careful, and the way they're just built like a home, same center, you know, 16-inch center, and we use oriented strand board, and you know, that's how they do them, so that is not a problem. There was one thing I was going to...
Yeah, putting the jacks down is a good one. One of the things that's real common in the shop is you're up there trying to seal a roof while your coworker is stepping up and down on the step getting the coach to rock for you, laughing.
I remember. So I brought this up. I'm going to have him explain how to use it and what these are for, but this is a lap sealant for rubber roof systems, vinyl roof systems, fiberglass roof systems, and it's like 12 bucks a tube. And the guy in the back corner over there says, well, why can't I just go down to Jerry's and buy DAP on sale for $2.99? And you can, because in the winter we like to put new roofs on because it's $8,000 or $10,000. So the reason for this is it's called a carrier solvent. Carrier solvents are what it's the chemical in there that keeps this liquid while it's in the tube. And when you caulk it out, that carrier solvent evaporates. The carrier solvents also are designed to etch, to eat into the substrate. Therein lies the problem. You buy DAP, it is for wood, brick, metal. It is not for fiberglass, it is not for rubber, it is not for plastic, because the carrier solvents are too aggressive for rubber roof systems, vinyl roofs, RV roof systems. So these butyl lap sealants that we use in the RV industry, the carrier solvent is designed to interact with these membranes without destroying the membrane. And one of the things, and I always thought this guy was an idiot until they showed me, one of the things, if you use something like DAP on there or any one of those sealants, what happens is it turns it into kind of like cottage cheese, because you actually start breaking down the rubber, and then it gets down through the rubber and it starts breaking down the glue that adheres the rubber to the decking. And what happens is it lifts, and all of a sudden it's now porous, and it starts pulling water in, and it's dogs and cats living together. It's just not good. It's not good. So there's a lot of things you can get at Jerry's and Home Depot and Lowe's, and I love Jerry's. This is not one of them. Don't go buy mobile home roof sealant in a 5-gallon bucket and think that you're doing a good thing. You're just bringing us good business. It's not good. Okay, what I would like you to do is kind of a rough, if I haven't said it, what we use this for and how we use this. Do you have any comments?
With regards to roofs?
I'm sorry?
With regards to roofs?
Yeah.
Because we use this for a lot of stuff.
We do this for what?
We use this for a lot of things.
Okay. And why do we use that?
Well, this is an aerosol solvent. Paint and body shops developed some really, really good degreasers and silicone removing solvents years ago, and this is that type of product. So it's safe on painted surfaces. It's safe for most any surface. I've even sprayed it on naugahyde and leather, and it doesn't hurt it. But it takes grease stains off. It loosens up the dirt. When we're resealing a roof, this is what we'll clean with when we clean around the area where we want to put new sealants on. You've got to get it clean, or you're just sticking your new sealant on dirt and you're not sealing it. Their Prepsol is what the original brand of this was. There's lots of brands, but the stuff that we're using is this Acrosol. It's really good for things that are hard to clean, grease, things like that. On roof sealant, we have a generic cleaner. It's in the yellow can. It's one of those foaming cleansers. You spray it and it foams like crazy. That's what I use on the roofs. It just lifts that dirt right off and you wipe it off with a paper towel. Whereas this stuff tends to soften the sealant, which isn't actually a bad thing. It just makes it a little harder to get clean. But because it softens the sealant a little bit, the new sealant really sticks to it really nice. So a solvent like that is good for cleaning the roof. This particular lap sealant that Dan was talking about is probably the best one of all of them. There's a number of different kinds. They have wildly different prices. Most of them are even more expensive than this. But this is compatible with just about everything. And you can put it over other sealants. You can put it on any of the membrane roofs. You want to flow it on nice and thick. It kind of flows and self-levels. Put it on really as thick as you can, and then don't touch it. And it'll skim over, the solvents will evaporate out of it, and it'll leave this, for weeks it'll be gooey and sticky. You don't want to touch it. But it never really hardens. It remains pliable and flexible like a vinyl. And that's why you want to use something like this instead of silicone or Roof Tex. One of the hardest things that I have to do is clean the old sealants off when there's multiple layers of every product in Home Depot on there, plus maybe a layer of duct tape thrown in. And that's now hardened up like cement, but like Dan said, it's porous. Water's getting through it, but I still can't scrape it off. You end up with a chisel up there. And that's no fun, and it costs a lot of money in labor hours, so use the right product. And if there's ever any doubt with what you should use on your roof, you can call your dealer, you can call your manufacturer, and just ask them, what sealants do you use on the roof? And they'll tell you. This is good on roofs, but you wouldn't use it to go around your windows or around your compartment doors or something like that. That's where you'd want to use clear silicone. That's a great product for that.
Is that what you were talking about with that flex stuff, the ProFlex?
Kind of. This ProFlex comes in colors, but we usually see it in clear. This is kind of like, this one happens to be white, but ProFlex is kind of like silicone on steroids. It dries considerably harder. Silicone is really rubbery and flexible, whereas this stuff is harder to dent. You've got to use a fingernail to dent it. Once it's dried, it sticks extremely well. It's great for things like on a fiberglass roof where the cove moldings go around. Often on a longer coach, there'll be a seam, and they'll use ProFlex on that seam because it really sticks to the materials. And then when it hardens, it remains a little bit flexible, so it doesn't want to crack. The downside to ProFlex is it's harder to apply. It's not very forgiving. It dries really quickly and it's gooey and sticky. And if you ever have to strip it off of there, it's nearly impossible to strip off. So personally, I don't use ProFlex unless it's in an application where that's the one that you need. On most RVs, there's only one or two spots where ProFlex is really appropriate. A lap seal or a roof seal on the roof, and a clear silicone, RTV, clear silicone on your moldings and around your windows and things like that are more appropriate and easier for somebody that doesn't do miles of silicone every day to apply.
Is there a specific brand of the silicone that you prefer?
No, silicone's neat stuff. Most these days it'll usually say RTV, and I don't really know what that stands for, but it's got to say 100% silicone on it. There are siliconized caulks that you use like around your windows and doors on a house, and they're typically paintable. If it says paintable on it, you know it's not clear silicone because nothing's going to stick to silicone once it cures. You can't paint it. And that used to be $1 a tube at Home Depot. Now I think it's about $5 a tube, but it's still about the least expensive caulking type product out there.
We're doing good? Well, we're down to a couple comments. I'm going to make two more comments, and I'm going to see if he has any final soapbox issues he wants to get up and talk about. One of my things is safety, and not very many people talk about tires. if you went to look for an RV and the salesman is less than scrupulous and he's showing you how beautiful these tires are, and it's a used coach, the problem is RVs, the tires don't wear out, they age out. And you say, oh, I didn't know tires have age. In this industry, in the trucking industry that we refer to, tires age out at 8 to 9 years. Government, they have their ideas of 7 or 8, but they waste a lot of money. But in the RV, in the trucking industry, they age out at 8 to 9 years. You don't see that in the trucking industry because they put so many miles on them. In our industry, they sit. And what happens, and this, one of you gentlemen, I don't remember which one it was asking about when he's storing his vehicle, if he can run his vehicle up on his jacks. And the manufacturers, if you have a motorhome with hydraulic or electric stabilizer, the manufacturers like it. If you're not using the coach, run those jacks up to lift up the coach, take some of the pressure off the chassis and off the tires. So what's happening to the tires is they sit in one spot for a long period of time and you get flat spots in the cord. And I have a car that I don't drive very often. It's a Garage Queen and I get it out once in a while. And first couple miles it's going down the road thumping because the tires are cold and it's got flat spots, but they eventually warm up and it's no big deal. But after you have an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old tire that's been sitting and it's got several flat spots that maybe didn't quite get all the way worked out, you get a 10, 11-year-old tire and you go down the road and it's going to go like this. Pretty soon it's going to go like this and then it's going to go boom. And that's a real issue. So there is a timestamp on your tires, and I can show somebody if they're interested on the tires what it looks like. It's just a little oval on the side where the casting information is, and it's 4 letters or four numbers, and it's like 4701. That's the 47th week of 2001. And if you have a 2010 coach and you've got original tires, your tires are 10 or 11 years old now. And they are just waiting to blow up because they've sat the vast majority of their life. One of the stories that he can tell, this happens to us every year. Somebody goes on vacation, they bought a trailer, they didn't use it for 2 years, and it sat. And then they decided to get a wild hare and go to Yellowstone before it blew up. And they get 50 miles from town, one tire blows out. Put the spare on. Now they get in 100 miles from home and another tire goes, and then 150. Pretty soon, side of their trailer's gone. This trailer sits in one spot, and those tires don't work out the flat spot because the cord is separated. If you have a coach that has sat for 2 to 3 years, not moved, especially a trailer, replace the tires if you're going to use it, because guaranteed they are going to come apart, especially the Chinese tires. The bigger trailers and fifth wheels, they use a light truck tire, and if you're using a Goodyear or something like that, they can handle it. We've just seen a lot of the Chinese tires with separation problems if they sit too long, especially in the trailers. Goodyear makes a special trailer tire, and they are wound so that the cords are wound so that they can, because they're not a drive tire, they're just a carrying tire, so they wind them differently and they seem to last more. But you're all nice people, and if you have enough money to buy a trailer, you can replace the tires every 7 or 8 or 9 years. If you have a used one, look at it because you may be riding on a time bomb. Yes, sir?
I have a question. On our RV, it has, on the back, it has double tandem wheels. Not really sure how to even inflate those or...
Good question. And now you're saying double tandem. You mean you got duals here and duals here?
Yeah.
But yeah. The question is, he's got duals. He doesn't know what pressure to inflate them to. Very good question. And the answer is very simple. Every RV has a data stamp somewhere. If it's a motorized, it's right by the driver's butt on the wall, and if it's a trailer, it's on the left front corner, and it gives you the tire size, and it gives you an inflated number. For example, brand new Dutch Star, tires on it, maximum tire pressure on the tire, it says 110 psi. The data plate from Newmar says 80 psi. If you put 110 in there, you're going to have rocks, and you're not going to keep it on the road. The way they do this is they weigh each tire, and then they go to the manufacturer and they say, okay, the manufacturer says that at 80 pounds it carries this weight, 85 pounds it carries this weight, and they match. Well, it weighs 6,200 pounds, so we're going to put this much pressure in it. They do that, and they put that on that data tape plate, and that's what you go by. If the manufacturer is an odd brand from China, sometimes they don't stick to the American nomenclature. They don't build a tire to match American spec. So if you have a Goodyear or a Michelin or a Bridgestone, and you go to a whatever a Chinese tire is, we sell them, and we sell some good ones. Hercules is good. They match the American spec. So if you say 80 on the data plate, you put 80 in it. But some, I had a guy come and tell me he had some, and he did it by that, and it was so overinflated because of the way they built the tire. It was so. Anyway, main point is be aware of your aging out of your tires, and look at the data plate. Doesn't matter, look at the data plate. Now, if a guy really has a lot of wasted time, you can get on the internet and you can get the specs for your tires, and you can weigh each corner on a scale. And maybe one corner needs 79 pounds, and maybe one corner needs 84. And the duals, actually, they need 68. It's just not worth it. You're not going to gain any safety. You're not going to gain any control. You're right there. Just go by the data plate. If you get in an accident and it's a smart lawyer and he's looking for a reason to make it your fault, and he finds that you're typically running over or under inflated on your tires, he's going to own you. He's going to look at that data plate and you're at 80, but all of a sudden you're running 95 psi because you like the feel. Now he owns you, so stick to the plate. That's all I have. Do you have any other last pet peeves or comments?
Your story about the tires blowing out one at a time. 5 or 6 years ago, my father found a little fifth wheel trailer that was in 1984, and it had been used one summer and then put in a barn. This trailer was brand new, except for all of the plastic things that started crumbling to dust as we started using it. But the tires on it were brand new, and they were F78 14s, and they didn't even have the date stamp on there. That law went into effect in '88. And I told him to put new tires on that trailer, and he was like, well, why? They're brand new. Well, I finally convinced him to get rid of the tires. Well, he didn't get rid of them. He put them on his equipment trailer. That summer, all 4 of those tires blew within the space of 2 months of each other. So there you go. They were brand new tires. They weren't even, the sidewalls weren't even cracked. They hadn't been exposed to the sun, but they were, 25 years old? So it really does happen. Dan's not just trying to sell tires.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Do I recommend? Yeah, that's what the question was. If you're going to park it for a few months, should you run your jacks down to take the weight off? Yes, yeah. I had mentioned that. The manufacturers of the chassis and the jack system recommend that. If it just takes the load off the chassis and the tires, off the suspension and the tires, it's a good thing. And this gentleman that asked me that this morning, he said, is it all right if my front wheels are off the ground? And yeah, your front wheels are not a problem on a motorhome. The problem is you need to maintain majority of the weight on the rear axle, because the drive axle is actually what keeps you from rolling off your jacks. If you're in a flat shop environment like this, yeah, you could run your jacks all the way down and lift your front and rear wheels off the ground. I wouldn't recommend it unless there's an emergency. You do not do that to change tires, but you do use it to unload some of that weight. And that reminds me one last thing. If a lot of people ask, well, where's my spare tire or where's my jack? Yeah, I know. Every time. If you can afford an RV, you can afford road service. This all started back in the 90s when a guy sued, well, his family sued Fleetwood. They had a bounder, and Fleetwood used to provide a little $39.99 Harbor Freight special bottle jack and a little tire iron and a spare tire. And he got down there, jacked it up, it slipped off, crushed him in the chest, he was gone. So since the early 90s, we do not provide jacks. We do not recommend you trying to change your own tire. That's why we have road service. And then the guy says, well, yeah, I'm going up the Alcan, and, you know, what do I do there? There are guys that are like buzzards all along the Alcan that really want to change your tire. But if you don't have a tire and you need a tire, then it's days and 3 times the money. So what we tell people, if you're going on an extended trip, you might get a tire. So when you're on the Alcan and the guy comes and jacks it up and takes the wheel off, he can bust it down, he can put the new tire on it, put it back on. He's going to charge you what he wants, several $100s to come out and do that. But you don't have to wait days now for a new tire. But you don't have to carry a rim, because those rims don't fail. And all of those guys up there can bust tires. So the answer is, if you're going on a major extended trip out into the hinterland, take a tire. But that's it.
You know, on the bigger motorhomes that have truck tires like those back there, you can't change it anyway. A number of times, 3 or 4 of us RV techs on the side of the road with a cheater bar, with it resting on somebody's knee while somebody jumps up and down trying to break those lug nuts loose. They make a thing called a torque multiplier that you can buy and carry with you in case you ever needed to change the tire. But I'm going to tell you, AAA isn't very expensive, and those road service guys, it's really nice to sit inside and watch them change a tire.
Okay, kids, thank you for coming. I hope you learned something and enjoyed this. Give Phil a hand here. He did good. All right, you guys. Thank you.
Very good.
Did you learn anything?
I learned lots of things. I have lots of questions to ask.
Well, your grandpa knows where I live and where I work.